Okay, I have to admit, I've been staring at the very first sentence of our source material for, I don't know, about 20 minutes now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's 6 words long. It looks simple, but the more I look at it, the more it just feels like a whittle that's trying to dismantle my whole understanding of biology.
I love when we start with a crisis of understanding. What is the sentence?
The sentence is, the mother of us all is not a person.
Ah, yes. That is a sentence that will stop you in your tracks.
Right.
It's provocative because it denies the most fundamental association we have. Mother is a noun, a person, a face, a history.
The woman who gave birth to you or raised you.
Exactly. To say it's not a person feels almost sacrilegious, or at least biologically incorrect.
Right. My brain immediately goes, well, then who is she? But that's the trap, isn't it? The text we're diving into today is arguing that we need to stop looking at the who and start looking at the what.
That it's not a role or a gender, but a function.
A function,
hmm
a mechanism.
And once you make that shift from person to function, it completely changes the landscape. It stops being about, your specific family and starts being about how life itself is sustained.
The source defines this function in a really specific, almost beautiful way. It says this function is the principle that allows life to arrive, remain, and repair.
Arrive, remain, and repair. That's so complete.
It is, and it adds a qualifier that I found really helpful. It says this function exists wherever something is held long enough to grow.
Held long enough to grow. That is the mission statement for this deep dive right there. We are looking at the mechanics of containment.
And I think we need to be clear right off the bat, this isn't going to be a sentimental conversation about greeting cards or flowers.
Not at all. The source is very clear. This isn't fluffy. It's about biology, systems, structural integrity. It applies to the Earth holding the atmosphere just as much as a parent holding a child.
It's macro and micro. It's the physics of survival.
It is. If you don't have a container, if you don't have something holding the edges together, growth is impossible. You just have entropy, chaos. So when the text says the mother of us all is not a person, it's saying, look for the container. Look for the thing that holds the space.
So let's look at the specs of this container.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not defined by gender, and the source is very explicit about that,
It is not.
what defines it? The text calls it containment with care, and it breaks this down into 3 pillars.
These 3 pillars are fascinating. They function almost like an algorithm for genuine care.
Okay, so the first one hit me pretty hard because it seems so obvious, yet it's so rare in our, transactional world. The first pillar is she feeds without demanding repayment.
Which is radical. Think about how our economy works, how most social interactions work. It's all tit for tat.
I give you this, you give me that. A trade.
Exactly.
Got it.
But this function, it feeds simply because the organism needs fuel. It's a resource flow based on necessity, not on merit.
The Earth doesn't ask you if you deserve oxygen today before you take a breath.
It just provides it. Because you are a living thing that requires it. That's the function in its purest form. It's non-transactional support.
Which leads right into the second pillar, and this is where I think a lot of people, especially in leadership or parenting, can get tripped up.
Yeah.
She protects without imprisoning.
Oh, that is the ultimate tightrope walk. Protection is necessary. You need a boundary, a wall to keep the predator out. But if the wall is too high or too tight,
It becomes a cage.
it becomes a cage. You see this with the boss who wants to protect the team from failure so badly that they micromanage every single thing. They think they're caring,
In a way, yeah, they think they're mothering.
but they're actually imprisoning. The function requires containment, not confinement. You need a perimeter where you're safe from the tiger, but you still have room to run around, make a mess, and explore.
If you can't move, you aren't being cared for, you're being stored.
Being stored. That is a terrifying image.
It is. Okay, let's move to the third pillar. She guides without erasing autonomy.
This is all about respect for agency. It's the idea that I can show you the path, I can light the lantern, maybe tell you where the potholes are, but I can't walk it for you.
And you shouldn't want to walk it for you.
Right. It's the difference between a guide and a puppeteer. A puppeteer wants the outcome to look exactly how they imagined it. A guide is interested in the traveler's journey itself.
The text makes a really crucial point here about forcing growth. Did you catch that part?
Oh, absolutely. It says the function does not force growth, which honestly goes against everything we're taught about self-improvement.
Right. I feel like I'm constantly trying to force myself to grow. Read more, run faster, be better.
We live in a culture of forced extraction. We try to extract productivity from ourselves like we're mining for coal. But the text argues from a biological perspective. You can't force a tomato plant to produce a tomato.
You can scream at it all you want.
You'll just kill the plant. All you can do is create the conditions. The soil, the water, the sun, the trellis, that's the containment. And then you have to wait. You have to trust the organism's internal mandate to grow.
That requires a level of trust that I think most of us really struggle with. We don't trust that growth will happen unless we are actively pushing it.
Because we underestimate the power of stability. The source says this function is often underestimated because it stabilizes rather than dominates.
And we respect domination, the loud voice, the forceful hand.
But stabilization, that's quiet, it's boring.
Until you lose it.
Exactly. Without that bedrock of stability, domination has nothing to stand on. This function is the ground floor of existence.
And part of creating that stable ground floor is being incredibly permissive.
Yeah.
The text has this list of things that the function allows, and as I read them, I realized how unsafe most of our environments actually are.
Let's go through them.
First, she allows mistakes without withdrawal.
That is the definition of unconditional positive regard. In most relationships, a mistake is a breach of contract. You messed up, so I'm pulling back my affection, my support, my attention.
That's withdrawal.
Yeah. This function says, you messed up, I'm still here, the container is still intact.
She allows expression without punishment.
That is psychological safety. Can I say what I'm actually thinking? Or do I have to curate a version of myself that won't get punished? If I have to curate, I am not being held. I'm performing.
And the big one. She allows difference without rejection.
That's the hardest one for systems. Systems love homogeneity. We like things that look and think like us because it feels safer. Difference can feel like a threat.
But this function is capacious. It's big enough to say, you are unlike me and you still belong here.
And the source says that when you have all these conditions, mistakes are okay, expression is safe, difference is allowed, something physiological happens.
It says, in her presence, survival relaxes into living.
That line is the bridge between philosophy and biology. Think about your nervous system. When you are in an environment where mistakes are dangerous and difference is rejected, what is your body doing?
It's scanning. It's tight. It's waiting for the other shoe to drop.
You're in sympathetic arousal, fight or flight. You are surviving. But when you feel held, when you know the container won't break just because you tripped, your nervous system gets the signal. Coast is clear.
You drop into the parasympathetic state. Rest and digest.
And that is the only state where living really happens. That's where repair happens, where digestion happens, where joy can happen.
So in a very real way, this mother function is the off switch for our stress response.
It is the regulator. It is the external regulator that teaches us how to regulate internally.
Which brings us to the part of the text that really blew my mind. We've been talking about this as an external thing, the earth, a parent, a leader.
Right?
But the source pivots and says, the mother of us all lives inside every human nervous system.
This is the shift to the internal. We aren't just looking for a mother. We are built to be the mother to ourselves.
How, though? What does that actually look like?
The source describes it as the capacity to self-soothe, self-protect, and self-repair. Think about a moment where you were overwhelmed. Maybe you got a nasty email and your heart starts racing. What happens next?
Ideally,
Yeah.
I take a breath. I tell myself, it's okay. We can handle this. I step away from the computer.
That is the function. That voice saying, it's okay. That decision to step away to protect your peace. That is the mother function operating within your own circuitry. You are holding yourself.
I love that. It's younger than every moment, the text says.
And older than culture. It's ancient biology. Animals do this. A dog licking its wound is the mother function. It is self-repair. It's something we inherit from life itself.
But the text is also careful to warn us. It says this isn't sentimental. She is practical.
I'm so glad they included that. We have this cultural baggage where mothering or self-care is seen as soft, maybe a little indulgent.
Bubble baths and chocolate.
Right. But the text says, no, this is engineering. It's practical. It knows when to hold and when to release. It's strategic.
Extremely. It's the specific opposite of abandonment, yes, but it's also the opposite of smothering.
Knowing when to intervene and when to step back and trust the repair process, that requires high-level judgment. It's not just blindly giving, it's intelligently sustaining.
Okay, so we have this beautiful, practical, biological function that keeps us alive and sane. But, I mean, you look around, the world doesn't always feel like a place of containment with care.
No, it doesn't. And the source addresses this darker side. It talks about what happens when we are cut off from this function.
This is where the diagnosis of our modern condition gets really sharp.
It does. When we're cut off, maybe because we didn't get that care as kids, or we're in a toxic environment, or we just disconnected from our own bodies,
Nope.
we don't just sit in the emptiness, we try to fill it.
We look for substitutes.
We look for cheap knockoffs of the function. And the text lists 3 specific substitutes that I think explain so much of human dysfunction.
The first one is seeking control instead of care.
This is the most common one. If I don't feel cared for, if I don't feel safe, I will try to control everything. My food, my schedule, my partner, my employees.
You grip the steering wheel so hard your knuckles turn white.
Exactly. Because the logic is, if I'm in control, nothing can hurt me. But control is exhausting. Care is a battery charger. Control is a battery drain.
The second substitute, seeking power instead of presence.
Presence is simply being with what is. It's that open container. Power is trying to force reality to bend to your will. It's dominating a situation so you don't have to feel vulnerable in it.
And the third one, which I think is the most subtle, seeking certainty instead of safety.
I want to pause on this one because it's profound. We often use those words interchangeably.
I want to feel safe and certain.
Right, but they are different currencies. Safety is somatic. It's a feeling in the body that says, I can handle what comes. It's resilience.
And certainty.
Certainty is cognitive. It's a mental demand to know the future. I need to know exactly what will happen at 3 p.m. tomorrow. If you need 100% certainty, it's because you don't feel safe enough to handle the unknown.
You're trying to script the future because you don't trust your ability to navigate it.
Precisely. And the source is blunt about the result of these substitutes. It just says, this creates suffering.
It's a feedback loop of suffering, right?
Yeah.
You seek control, you realize you can't control everything, you panic, you seek more control.
You become dysregulated, you lose that middle ground, what psychologists call the window of tolerance, where you can actually engage with life. You're either manic or depressed, gripping or collapsing.
But the good news, and there is good news in the source, is that this isn't a permanent sentence. The function can be restored.
It can. When her function is restored, internally or externally, systems heal. And the list of what happens when that restoration kicks in is beautiful.
People regulate. Connection becomes possible. And my favorite, creativity returns.
Yes.
Why creativity? Why is that the canary in the coal mine?
Because creativity is inherently risky. To create is to do something that hasn't been done. It's being willing to make a bad drawing, write a bad sentence, propose a silly idea.
If you're in survival mode, you can't take risks.
You can't. If you're running on the substitutes of control and certainty, you can only repeat what works. You become rigid.
So creativity isn't just a talent. It's a symptom of safety.
It's proof that the mother function is present. It means the container is holding you well enough that you feel safe to play.
The source also makes a really interesting distinction here. It says, she is not worshipped, she is remembered.
I love that. It demystifies it. We aren't building a shrine to the Great Mother. We're just remembering a capacity that is already installed in our hardware.
It's like remembering how to ride a bike.
Or remembering to breathe deep. It's a recall of our own nature. And when we remember it, the text says, the world becomes inhabitable again.
That's the payoff. The world stops looking like a battlefield and starts looking like a home.
So the million-dollar question, how do we do it? How do we remember this function on a Tuesday afternoon when we're stressed?
The source focuses on embodiment. It says she asks to be embodied, not named.
Right. Don't worry about the philosophy. Worry about the action. The text gives us 3 indicators, 3 ways to embody the function right now.
Indicator 1. Where someone stays with themselves instead of leaving, she's there.
That is the antidote to abandonment. When you feel shame, when you feel fear, do you check out? Grab your phone, numb out. Or do you stay? Do you put a hand on your chest and say, I am right here with you?
That act of staying is the function.
Indicator 2, where gentleness replaces force, she is there.
That's the antidote to power and control. It's asking, can I move with the current instead of against it? Choosing the soft front instead of the armored front.
And indicator 3, where life is allowed to be fragile and still valued, she is there.
This is the one that really gets me. In our efficiency-obsessed world, fragility is a defect. If something's fragile, we want to fix it or throw it away.
We hide our fragility. We pretend we're bulletproof.
We do. But this function says, fragility is okay. You can be broken and still be valuable. You can be weeping and still be worthy of the container.
In fact, it's the fragility that elicits the care. If we weren't fragile, we wouldn't need the function at all.
That reframes fragility completely. It's not a failure. It's the invitation for care.
Yes. And the text adds that this function also lives between people when care is mutual.
It's not just a solo job.
No, we can be the container for each other. When I'm too tired to self-regulate, you can hold the space for me. And when you're falling apart, I can hold the space for you. That network of mutual containment, that is what community actually is.
A distributed motherboard.
A distributed motherboard, I love that.
It feels like we've traveled a long way from that first sentence. We started with, "The mother of us all is not a person," which felt like a riddle. And we've landed on this idea of a universal biological system of safety that we can access anytime.
And not just access, but that we must access. The source ends with a warning and a promise. It says, "The mother of us all is not an ideal. She is a necessity."
Without her, nothing lasts.
That is the hard truth. You can build an empire on force, a career on control, but it won't last. It will eventually become brittle and break because it cannot repair itself.
But the promise?
Yeah.
With her, everything has a chance.
Everything has a chance, and that's all we can ask for, isn't it? A chance to arrive, a chance to remain, and a chance to repair when we break.
So as we wrap up, I'm thinking about that final provocation. We talked about fragility being the thing we try to hide. But if we look at it through this lens,
The question becomes, how might your own capacity for fragility, that thing you're trying so hard to fix, actually be the very thing that saves you? Because your fragility is what requires you to develop the capacity for care. If you were invincible, you would never learn how to hold or be held.
and if you can learn to hold that fragility, to mother yourself in the functional sense, that is what gives your life the structural integrity to last.
That is the work. And it's the only work that matters in the end.
That is a powerful place to leave it. To our listener, check on your containment today. See if you're holding or forcing. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Take care.